Hello and welcome to this special episode of X-Spook Commander. I'm your host, Christopher R. Morg.
You could have gone ARG. Christopher
Arg.
Arg.
Christopher Arg. That's much better. I'm your host, Christopher Arg.
My name is Spoop Gulzo.
It's not even an attempt at a pun.
No. I'm sorry. Was your problem here?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing about doing the cold opens, is that I basically just get to be a dick to you in whatever way possible, because I can prepare something, but I never tell you what I'm doing.
You make a joke. I make a better joke, and then you're a dick to me.
Yeah, that's sort of this podcast in microcosm in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's Halloween.
Yes,
It's Halloween, and it's Nick and myself's favorite sort of festival, I suppose, unofficial kind of holiday. So we thought we'd do just a little.
I'm not sure what that was then. That was a strange noise I just made. But yeah, no, it's Goth Christmas.
It's Goth Christmas, yeah, and don't worry about the unusual noise, Nick, because I'm gonna pile like hauntedhouse.mp3 and storm.mp3 over all of this.
It's a real shame that we can't sort of put together our favourite videos as well, because are you just going to have like repeated gifs of dancing skeletons and stuff? Because they're my favourite things.
That is, I hadn't considered it, but that's exactly what's going to happen. Really,
one of my favourite. Somebody sent me a gif of a skeleton playing a pipe, playing like a flute, and that's my favourite thing. Is
yeah.
Skeletons playing wind instruments for two reasons.
Yes.
One, they lack lips. Right? And lips are very much instrumental in those instruments. And secondary, they lack air sacs to actually extrude the air that they need to play things. But then also the fact that people always seem to describe it as dooting.
Yeah.
So it was somebody sent me a photo, sent me this gif of a skeleton playing the flute, and it just had subtitled "Doots menacingly," which is also my favorite jazz player.
Doots menacingly.
Yeah.
Doots menacingly and the skeletal trio.
Yes.
I'm into that. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about the whole sort of skeleton meme, I suppose. A few years ago, when like the skeleton meme thing was quite big, I think it started with the drill tweet, which we'll put this up now. But the drill tweet was, if your grave doesn't say "rest in peace" on it, you're automatically drafted into the skeleton war.
Yes.
And and like from that, there was this whole sort of meme of skeletons. And my favorite thing about it was that just like everybody decided what the speech pattern for spooky skeletons should be, and like if a skeleton is playing a musical instrument, like it's obviously dooting,
There was have you ever been stuck in a YouTube hole? You sort of reach a strange flaw in the while spelunking through, while spelunking through YouTube, you find a strange cavern filled full of unusual bioluminescent fungus. And this one occasion, I found people making strange videos about skeletons. And it was like army helicopter invades friendly skeleton realm. And like giant skeleton destroys city.
That was the best one.
It was giant skeleton. But it was like it ends with the skeleton on like a plinth with a medal saying "Best Destroy." And I'm like, people have made these. I don't know what purpose they serve.
And it's like first of all, he's on the podium at the end. We'll just play this video on in the background. But like,
if you can find this video, good for you.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got it bookmarked and saved. But like, he's on the podium at the end with the winner's medal. But like, there's no second and third place. So
because he's destroyed them.
Yeah.
He was so good at destroying. He destroyed the competition.
Best at destroying city and destroying everything else. I mean, I think that the way that we as a society have sort of pinwheeled on skeletons is just my favourite thing, because if a skeleton is lying still, like that's frightening, right? Like that's literally, it's a memento mori. It's like the last shadow of the human that used to be wrapped around it.
Also, a really good way of showing death in a PG film.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Don't find a corpse, find a skeleton.
Yeah, I genuinely hadn't considered that, but they're sort of they're almost like a sort of a safe for work kind of version of gore.
Safe for work death. But we're comfortable with zombies now. Like, as a society, we're fine with zombies. You get zombies in kids programs.
Yeah,
zombies were like in the realm of the adult program because blood and sort of like cannibalism and stuff like that. But no, society is well fine with zombies now.
Yeah.
So the skeleton, where is the skeleton in all this? In the hierarchy of of scary creatures, where is he down to Wolfman level now? Skeleton and Wolfman are hanging out the bar like, you remember when we were scary?
And the skeleton picks up a shot glass and just like pours it.
Just necks it, and just all falls down his ribs.
It all falls down his ribs.
He gets barred for ruining another. You've ruined one too many stools in this place. Get out of here. Your elbows are too sharp anyway.
But that's the thing. Like, just imagining it, and the moment a skeleton moves, it's instantly hilarious. It's instantly not scary anymore because like you can imagine their bones clanking around, and they always look like they're kind of having a good time, and so I don't know. Still, skeletons like still are still a memento mori and could still be used in like a horror context. But like you try and do a serious horror story with a moving skeleton, and I'm sorry. You'll make it to meme level, and that's it.
Well, I quite like skeletons in video games. You get skeletons in stuff like Skyrim and what have you, and they're usually I quite like it because the way that you make a skeleton scary, I feel, is with sound.
Okay,
which is ironic.
Like xylophone.mp3.
Well, that is exactly it. Is that if you have you ever played Minecraft?
I've never played Minecraft.
You can hear.
But then I'm also not 14.
If you're sort of whoa. Dude,
sorry.
You just alienated all of one listener, but who also was 14. No, I played a lot of Minecraft when I was in university, as you well know.
Sure. Definitely, yeah.
And one of the things was if you're like digging around and you reach a cave, you could always hear skeletons because they would sort of clank on each other.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite a unique way, but like similarly on Morrowind, the skeletons make sort of clanky noises. So if you know that it's out there and it's making a noise, it's a scary.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just a question of good sound design, isn't it? Because with the appropriate kind of sounds, you can sort of create a really sort of frightening atmosphere where even if there was no sound, like that atmosphere wouldn't exist. By the way, I got a bit distracted halfway through that sentence because I suddenly remembered the bit from Peep Show where Super Hans is in the studio and is like, we need to create a powerful feeling of dread, and he just like mashes his hand down on one key of the synth and it's like, the longer the note, the more powerful the dread.
That's actually how it works.
Yeah, and I think there's a point to it, isn't there? Like, it's the idea of like repetition. I think like Silent Hill 2 does this pretty well. I mean, all the Silent Hill games do sound design.
I have one of my prized possessions is I actually bought the Mondo re-release of the Silent Hill soundtrack.
Oh, cool.
So it's the first track is the Silent Hill theme, which is like a nice little mandolin song.
Yeah.
And then, aside from the fact there's one bit, if you listen to it really carefully, like sort of there's a little break, and you can hear a little like female sob halfway through one of the tracks, and it's just it's in quite a jolly song, and it's just really unsettling. But the rest of the album is just industrial noise. it's like Metal Machine music by Lou Reed. It's just sounds. And I was playing it once, and my girlfriend's like, "What's this album?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Silent Hill." She's like, "Put it on." Play the first track, then she's like 3 more tracks later, she's like, "No."
Like they lure you in with a relatively upbeat single, and then the rest of it is just like industrial gears grinding.
But that actually is probably the most terrifying thing about Silent Hill 2 is the music design and how it is relentless.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean,
like
and you mentioned about like contrast a second ago, and how you've got like this relatively upbeat kind of tune, and it's a bit of a cliche to use like upbeat sort of stuff in a horror context. I mean, think of how many horror films horror film trailers you've seen where there's like a child singing a nursery rhyme but very very slowly in the background. But at the same time, there's a wonderful bit in Silent Hill 2 where you go into a lift and there's like a 1950s radio quiz show which you have to play for like a couple of minutes, and the music to that is all like sort of jaunty big band kind of stuff. And like you watch that scene in isolation and it's like, what the fuck is this? Why is this in a spooky horror game? But you know, you've been lulled into this emotional state by the sound design up until that point, so that when this 50s radio program comes in, it's like, you know, I'm not going to say it's genuinely horrifying, but it's genuinely unsettling.
One of the enemy creatures in Doom, the 2016 game, is called the Revenant, and it is a skeleton, and it is about 8 foot tall.
Okay.
And has rocket launchers for shoulders.
So it's Skeletor, basically.
Yeah, but the thing is, you think like that's not going to be scary, but the thing is, it's got like bits of like wet skin still stuck to it, and these crazy eyes, and most of the enemies, well, I think all the enemies have some form of like death animation. If it kills you, then you know you don't just die. Its one is when it rips your limbs off. So like it grabs you and like rips you in two, and you're like viewing that from a first person perspective as it pulls your legs off. It's huge, like, and the thing about a skeleton obviously is it's got no lips, so it's just sort of like grinning at you as it pulls all of your bits of it. It's really quite. The thing is that like Doom isn't about fear; it's about panic. There's a big difference between the two things.
Yes, definitely,
you know,
definitely.
You play a game like Silent Hill 2 or the Penumbra games as well. They were pretty terrifying. Or any of the Amnesia games. I mean, I was just playing Machine for Pigs, Amnesia 2, Machine for Pigs.
Oh, yeah.
Was the free game on PlayStation Plus this month.
Nice.
And that is a fucking scary game.
But it doesn't make you. It doesn't make you panic. It fills you with
exactly.
dread.
So, for example, you wake up and you wake up from a dream, and it shows this bit where there's machines turning on, all lights coming off in sequence, and then it wakes up with you hear a child's voice saying, "I think it's like, Daddy, please stop hurting me."
Oh God!
And you wake up and you're looking around this house, and you realise that all the beds in the house are in cages.
Okay.
But not like in cages, like like something captive. It's like as if something's trying to stop it from getting in, and it's just so unsettling. You're like, what is going on here? And that's genuinely frightening. So when in Doom you're running as a giant pig beast wants to eat your heart, you're panicking. But like when you're playing something like Amnesia, you are scared. There's a big difference between fear and panic.
Yeah, well, it's the difference between being frightened and being startled, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
In that one is an emotion which is felt momentarily.
Fear versus the jump scare.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, jump scares sort of brings us on nicely, because we both saw Blade Runner 2049 this week.
Yes.
And you sent me a text before I went to see it saying like, have you seen Blade Runner yet? And I was like, no, I'm kind of interested to see it. What's it like? And I got a one-word text reply from you, which just said, exemplary.
Yeah.
And it's not very often that you I get one-word text from you. So I thought, okay, I'll definitely give this a go. And we'll probably talk about it on a separate podcast because it's excellent. But
it's not very Halloween.
Not really, but it does lead in, because the original Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Mm-hmm.
And also directed by Ridley Scott, the original Alien. And also out in the last sort of couple of months was Alien Covenant, which was directed again by Ridley Scott.
So I had a brief look, because I was like, Ridley Scott, he's a prolific dude. You know, what was he done? Alien was his second film as director.
Jesus, was it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I should have come prepared with that knowledge. I did not know that.
Yeah. His first film was called The Duelists.
Okay.
Where he actually was also operator on that. So like we're talking like 2 years later he makes Alien.
Yeah.
Right. Then 3 years after he makes Alien, he makes Blade Runner.
That's a good spell, right?
Yeah.
You know, your first 3 films and two out of three of them are, stone cold genre classics.
Yeah, absolute.
That's a good run.
Smashes. But then we sort of smash cut to 2003. So, like, in the year 2000, he released Gladiator.
Yes.
Okay. Then in 2001, he released Hannibal and Black Hawk Down.
Oh, God.
Right? Then
and he was also producer on those films as well.
Also producer on those films.
Jesus.
Then in 2002, he lost the ability to direct. And everything from that point onwards has been an utter toilet.
I mean, it's okay. It's a bit unfair to rag on Ridley Scott for changing narrative focus, I suppose, because he gets older and you develop and grow as an artist and everything.
Well, no, I'm right.
Go on.
Please
continue shitting on Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott really hasn't directed it. I don't like Gladiator.
Did you not?
No,
I
I think it's
since I've seen it. But.
Big, glossy turd. I just don't. It's a big fat blockbuster film. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Yeah, but I suppose
get it.
I don't know. Hannibal was kind of a dumb-ish blockbuster.
It was a dumb film, considering how good Silence of the Lambs is. And they do a really strange move of trading in Jodie Foster for Julianne Moore.
Yeah, that I don't think that really paid off in the end. I mean, there's lots of problems with that film, but I feel like that's certainly not a minor one. Yeah, so the thing about Alien Covenant is that we've got this one film which Ridley Scott directed, Blade Runner. Somebody else comes in to direct the sequel, and it's just wonderful. It's a stunning film. If you this podcast is going up actually on Halloween, so if you do have a chance to see it, totally recommend. But then with Alien Covenant, Ridley Scott comes back in and says, okay, so I'm going to direct this, and he also directed Prometheus, which was a couple of years ago, and I wonder if you've ever had this experience where you've seen like a beloved creator come back to a franchise or come back to a genre, and you just think, oh, did you actually understand what made the original film or the original piece of art frightening in the first place?
But the thing is, that's not even the question. I feel for this franchise is that I thought you were going to say what I was thinking, but you kind of said something different. What I felt from this was, it's like he came back to Alien and didn't understand what Alien was.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say.
These films are all about the grand mythology of where these things come from, and all this, like, let's go to their home planet, let's see what they're like, let's have a whole bunch of absolute morons go to various planets, touch things they shouldn't, break quarantine protocol. In fact, actually, that's what, if you think about it, because we were talking about this, but like in Alien, Ian Holmes' character Ash, he breaks quarantine procedure. Like, Sigourney's not going to let him in. Ellen's not letting them on the ship because it's quarantine procedure. He lets them in. And if you just think about it, you can actually frame the Alien films directed by Ridley Scott as being a history of breaking quarantine procedure.
Yes, but in the original Alien, it served a narrative purpose because Ash, it turns out, is actually his prime directive is to get hold of the creature.
Yeah. And he knows that he's gonna die, and that the plane, the spaceship is gonna fly them there, like on autopilot. He is prepared to sort of like fulfill his robotly duties.
Yeah, and he's a sleeper agent essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine. It serves a narrative point. But in Prometheus, and they do it in Alien Covenant as well. You've just got these fucking like dicks wandering around an alien planet, just like rubbing their faces on stuff.
Yeah, it's literally touchy stuff. Like in Prometheus, in the most ridiculous scene, a trained geologist and a trained biologist from Earth. Right, which is a planet with animals on it. Right, last time I checked, they see something that looks like a python, and then proceed to sort of coochie-coo it, which then proceeds to kill them both. Right?
Yeah.
If I am on Earth, where I live, and I'm walking along and I see something that looks like a python, I'm gonna be like, "That looks like a python. I better steer clear of that thing, with its fangs and face and poison, not to go." It's like, can you imagine? Right, you picture this scene. Me and you. We're not astronauts.
We're not.
No, right? You might be surprised to learn as well that we're not biologists, okay? We're on an alien planet, okay? Something the size of a Volkswagen Beetle comes up to you that looks like a scorpion, okay? First reaction, is it to ride it?
No.
Or is it to shit your pants and run away?
Yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, aesthetically and narratively, the xenomorph it's a metaphor for sexual assault and you know, unwanted or like a forced impregnation, but that's not a theme which is well served by a scene which shows supposedly a competent Earth geologist kind of looking like he wants to fuck a weird alien python creature, you know.
After somehow both of them getting high by running marijuana through their air filters.
Oh god, I fucking forgot all about that scene. Yeah, they brought stoners to a xenomorph planet. Yeah.
So of all the strange decisions in that film, my favourite one is the scene where Noomi Rapace has the alien removed from her by a funfair grabber.
It's by one of those claw machines, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want it to play like Barnum and Bailey tunes or something.
It doesn't get it.
No. The claw goes in, picks out the squid, lifts it up an inch, and then drops it back in again.
Oh god.
And to be honest, like the new Alien Covenant, if you've seen Prometheus, you've really seen the Alien Covenant. In that it follows almost exactly the same beats. It follows much the same kind of narrative structure, but at the same time, like, what was frightening about Alien, just on a conceptual level, was that, you know, it's something which is completely different. Like, we've got no idea where it comes from. It doesn't seem to want anything other than to want us all dead. You can't communicate with it, and you know, it was. I mean, that's truly horrifying. You can't reason with this thing. You can't control it. It's way more powerful.
I also believe that Ripley says all these things in a scene in Aliens as well.
Yeah.
She basically, you can't reason with it. You can't play chess with it. You can't put a dress on it.
Yeah, well, like Ash, I think Ash also has a scene where he's when he's been decapitated and he says, like, I feel sorry for you. Like, it's the perfect predator.
Yeah.
You know, it's the perfect killing machine. And then in what Prometheus and Covenant did was sort of try to explain where that came from and the origins and all that sort of stuff, which for a creature which is based around the idea of the unknown can only ever make it less interesting and therefore less scary.
Well, speaking of the difference between fear and panic again.
Yeah.
Right. The history of Alien video games is quite a patchy one.
Okay.
So, you know, you had Alien Trilogy, which was a PS2 PS1 shooter. Yeah, PS1 shooter. And you'd have had all the Alien Colonial Marine and the Alien vs Predator games and stuff like that. But the only actual, I think, decent video game of Alien is Alien Isolation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And I think the reason why that one is because it actually understands what's frightening about the alien is that there is, like, it doesn't need to be thousands of them. Alien Isolation is a video game where you play as Ellen Ripley's daughter, the one who's, like, shown as being really old inside the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there's only one fucking alien in the whole film, game, and you do get to eventually oust it from life, but it, like, you know, you spend your entire time fucking running and hiding from this thing because it's a monster. And the thing about it is that all those things that Ash said and all those things that, you know, Ripley said are true. This thing will fucking kill you, and it won't give two shits about it.
Yeah, and that was the whole genius of Aliens, even though that's not really a horror film. It's like, when you've established this creature which is singularly terrifying in and of itself, the only thing more frightening than that is if that's part of a swarm.
Yeah, and it shows a difference. It shows a different form of relentlessness to it.
Yes, exactly.
You know, there's
exactly,
that scenes in the director's cut where they sort of they set up the gun turrets and they just keep running at the gun turrets, and like there thousands of them are getting butchered and blown apart, but like there's just endlessness to them.
Yeah, exactly. And you see the ammo counters on the guns like tick down and tick down and tick down. Yeah.
And you know that's different. So if you think about it, right, the whole point of Alien is it's introduced you to something new. You're like getting introduced to this character. So if you're Ridley Scott and you're making a sequel to Alien, you gotta think to yourself, well, they know what it is already.
Yeah.
How can I develop on this? And I feel like David Fincher did a good job in Alien 3. I actually like that film.
Yes, I can. I mean, I'm such a huge slut for H.R. Geiger's Alien that I'll try and find merit in anything with the Xenos in.
Oh yeah, so but like it just seems such a weird idea that sort of the whole elements of not knowing were the best parts of Alien, and Ridley Scott went right. So I'm gonna give them what they want, more information.
Yeah, and it's giving the audience what they think they want again, because I remember I saw Alien for the first time when I was at university, and when you saw that fossilized space jockey in that huge cockpit of this crashed ship, it's like I want to know everything about that, but then you sort of, again, your imagination fills in all the blanks. Another example of this, actually, of finding out too much and that making it less scary. The original Blair Witch Project, you never see the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
There's not even. Yeah, there's not even like a jump scare at the end, or there's not even like a fleeting glimpse around a corner or anything. You just never see what it is. But I was Googling it recently, and I found that you can buy like a little 6.5-inch collectible action figure of the Blair Witch, and it's like this lovingly rendered detail and like this beautifully shaded and painted and all this detail, and I'm looking at it like, no, I don't want that. Like I don't want to see what this is, because it's so much more, because your imagination fills in everything else when you don't know what it is. And then when you see this little 6.5-inch action figure collectible, which is going for I don't know, some incredible amount of money in comic book shops, it's like, wow, an awful lot of effort has gone into something which literally I don't think anybody wanted. And it completely changes and alters how you perceive the film, and of course it's always more frightening to not know. I mean, that's the nature of fear, isn't it? You're afraid of the dark because of those things in there that are dangerous to you.
I feel we actually are being very unfair to Ridley Scott, because he didn't actually write Alien.
Did he not?
No, Dan O'Bannon wrote Alien. I don't know why I just said that like you should know who that is either.
Well, we have just been talking about it, and I should have probably done some research.
But he also didn't write Prometheus.
No,
that was written by Damon Lindelof, a man whose writing skills I have no particular fan of whatsoever.
Yeah, Lindelof wrote Lost as well, I think. Yeah.
And he also wrote Star Trek Into Darkness, which is
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And the man who wrote Alien Covenant, actually, I've just found out, wrote Star Trek Nemesis. So these people are not the best writers on Earth. So, like, I think that the problems with the new Alien films is nothing to do at all with Ridley Scott, but it's to do with people who have grown up, who have watched Alien as kids and gone, I have my own spin, I have my own hot take on this shit.
Yeah.
Then they've grown up and they've done their own hot take, and guess what? Their hot take is bad. That's all hot takes are.
And also, it's like with any sort of horror creature which is deliberately kept vague, that immediately opens the door for people to speculate, and especially when the franchise has been sort of as dormant as long as the Alien franchise was. When you eventually get the canon, I suppose, like the canon, the official backstory of what happened, if you've spent however many years formulating your own horrific backstory from your own imagination, then the official version is almost inevitably going to be a bit of a letdown.
Well, I mean, like, the plots to Prometheus and Covenant are so grand. About like black oil's creating new species of engineered humans from fucking, I don't know, that humans shouldn't be allowed to conquer the world because they're evil or something, and man's own inherent cruelty being represented by the alien. And it's like, oh, just grow up. Just, like, it feels like these are sort of people's fan fictions now,
Yeah, it has that sort of quite derivative kind of quality to it, in that, like, every alien film has to have the blow out the airlock scene.
Yeah. But it feels like these things that they are making in these films, they are sort of, they have to have some form of, like, but the true villain is humans. It's like, well, actually, no. The true villain is the fucking gigantic alien that wants to chew your face off and kill you. And I think that's what people don't get. That's what people are failing to get, is that there isn't any message to Alien. The message is that at the very fringes of space, there are things we will never understand that will kill us relentlessly, and we shouldn't try and turn them into house pets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes a giant drooling space monster is just a giant drooling space monster.
Yeah. Dr. Space Freud. But then, when you sort of try and explain it with some kind of great mythology, and these people created it because they care about us as humans and shit, and, you're explaining the dark causes of the universe and making them less threatening. Yeah.
And it also makes the universe feel very small.
That's the thing, is I always get that about Star Wars. So,
the Star Wars universe is tiny. It's like the size of one suburb.
Like when like they had in the prequel movies where they had everyone knowing everyone, like where Yoda met like fucking Chewbacca and stuff, and no idea why I said Chewbacca as Chewbacca then, but they're all meeting each other and being friends, and it's just like, does everyone just live in the same area code?
Yeah, and especially with like the idea of the engineers. Always having a plan for humans, or somehow being involved with humans' evolution, and that being inextricably bound up with the xenomorphs. It's like, suddenly the xenomorphs become this creature which is completely bound up in the history of humans. When in the in the original, again, what part of what made it frightening was that this was just an opportunistic parasite. And was happy to feed on whatever was nearby, which happened to be humans.
Well, the other thing is, the weird thing you got from it as well is, I always thought that maybe it, like the monster, the xenomorph, because I always, and this is something that was explored in Alien 3, I always thought that like the xenomorph sort of took on the form of whatever it was. And
it is implied like that.
It could have been fairly benign until it met humans, you know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I always thought that they're like, because you get to the edge of space, these things have never interacted with each other. It's never actually hosted within a human body. It may never have actually been anything terrifying before. I mean, it's implied that it killed well, it's not implied. It's sort of explicitly stated that it killed the space jockey.
Yeah, but the space jockey is shown to be humanoid, if not. Well, like he's bipedal with facial symmetry,
but
and
he's got them inside his spaceship's compartment, but they're through a hole, so you don't even know if he brought them there or if they've just laid a nest there because it's warm or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because their life cycle is based on parasitic wasps, which actually do lay eggs inside of other critters and eat their way out. I mean, that was another possibility, right?
You have no idea what is actually going on, and as soon as you're telling me exactly what's going on, I just don't care anymore.
Actually, that's something I wanted to ask you. What is the sort of horror creature, either from classic horror or from horror films? Like, what's the horror creature or the horror sort of concept which scares you the most?
That really is quite a tough one, because I do get, as a writer or something, that's very Garth Marenghi, sort of like as a writer, but like as a quite imaginative person, I get frightened by all kinds of shit. Sometimes if I just remember I have organs in me, I get freaked out.
I'm just imagining you like suddenly remember like going for an X-ray and it's just fucking pissing yourself. Like,
yeah, do you remember that?
That's inside me.
I think I was actually, it was when I had my first chest X-ray and I was in the hospital sending you texts being like, "Mom, there's nothing in there."
Yeah.
When did they find out something that I didn't know?
I was sending you very soothing texts back. I was,
was
like,
like,
it's alright.
It's like I just had this idea that they'd like do a scan. It's like, well, we didn't find anything wrong with your lungs, but you're mostly tumour. You know, like just the idea that like the things you don't know are the worst things that could possibly be happening to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, I can tell you, here's an interesting one, because I mean, I think vampires are stupid.
Sure.
You know, like as a concept, I think they're quite dumb, and I always like it when they're presented in a way that is completely inhuman. So, like, if you have chance, watch the Castlevania miniseries, the animated miniseries on, on Netflix, because they have Dracula in it, and he is like totally inhuman, like giant ears and like sharp fangs, and somebody mistakes him for a person. I'm like, is this person never met another person before? Because he a vampire. But no, I when I saw Frankenstein on stage, with the two Sherlocks in it, Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller, that was really quite frightening. It was really quite scary, and it made me think about. And I think the book of Frankenstein, the Mary Shelley's actual novel of Frankenstein, it's fucking terrifying. It's a scary, bleak book, and I don't know. I find that quite scary. I think the idea of reanimated bits of person. If you're ever are bored with life, watch Victor Frankenstein, because that's a terrible film which will rob Frankenstein of all mystery. You know, the sort of Frankenstein's monster and things like that.
Yeah.
But
it is hard because like even if there's like a horror creature or like a horror concept that just presses your fear buttons in a certain way, guaranteed there'll be 10,000 terrible films which have completely taken that concept and budgeted it. And it's hard then, I suppose, for it to maintain its horror hold, its fear hold.
Yeah,
over
it's like I can't. It's in the same. Well, in the same way we were talking about how like I felt bad because I've never been part of a fandom.
Yes,
it's the same thing that like I can never say that any one thing has scared me because no one thing is unilaterally that good.
Right.
Yeah, like there's. I don't sort of go, ooh, a werewolf film, because there are so many terrible ones.
Yeah, and I suppose this is something which is unique to horror because it trades so much in archetypes and in sort of stock characters and stock monsters in a lot of ways. You'll have 50 different 50 different versions of werewolf films, and all of them taking it in a different way and using it for analogies for different things. But yeah, I suppose because fear is such a nebulous kind of emotion, like as soon as something stops being scary, it's very difficult to make it scary again.
But also, there's an amazing film called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is a vampire film.
That's like a Hitchcock film title.
It's a vampire film set in Iran.
Oh, okay.
With a burqa-wearing, skateboarding vampire who kills men who are abusive to women.
Okay, I'm into it.
And
how do they get around the fact that blood isn't halal?
But they I don't think that people are halal either.
Well, true. But you could slaughter them in halal. But if vampires feed on blood, never mind. This film sounds interesting. Anyway, please carry on.
This bit's getting cut. Then cue the trumpet where it says it didn't get cut. Yeah, so it's a really good movie, but it's actually quite frightening as well. It's actually quite a scary film. It does build up tension perfectly, and you should link to the trailer in the thing because it's a good good film.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, I think that probably the closest way to get me scared is a good ghost story.
Okay.
Because I slept. So I slept back at my. I slept in my mother's bedroom the other night. She wasn't there.
Okay.
But like there was my family went on holiday, so I was staying and looking after the dogs. So I stayed in the master bedroom rather than anywhere else. And this is the first time I ever slept in this room. I was a bit creeped out because I just didn't recognise the architecture, the sounds, the room. There's nothing, I think, probably to me, more just unnerving than the possibility of a ghost.
Yes, because why?
Well, because it's such a simple concept, isn't it? There is something haunting this room. There's something inhabiting the space that is unnatural.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. A ghost is so many different things. It could be like a deceased person whose spirit lingers. It could be a malevolent force. It doesn't need to be anything. And the thing is that the human brain makes ghosts happen. If you think about it.
Yeah.
Our brain is programmed to pick out shapes in darkness and that look like they could be predators. And that's what we're frightened of. We're not frightened of ghosts. We're frightened of our brain finding predators.
Yeah, exactly. And we're exactly the same with sounds as well. So you'll hear you'll hear the wind like whistling through a crack in your window, for example, and it's not that it will sound like somebody talking to you. Like you will just hear somebody talking to you. And
that I think a ghost fucks me up proper good. Like, what about you? You levied this question at me and didn't answer it yourself.
For me, it's aliens. Alien abduction.
Oh God, you actually asked me about that, didn't you? You sent me a thing recently about what scary alien abduction films do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because I suppose it's very similar to your ghost thing in that it's hardwired into the fear of predators. But it's the idea of being taken away by a group of beings which are so immeasurably more advanced than we are. We are to them as ants are to us, essentially.
Did you ever watch the film I suggested for you?
No, I'm going to ask you for that title again.
Yeah, it was called Fire in the Sky.
Okay.
And it was adapted from a book called The Walton Experience, where a guy called Travis Walton said that he was abducted by aliens. But it has just got a relentless alien abduction scene where the aliens sort of probe the main character. And it's just, you get this whole feeling that something is going on that you have no idea what it could ever be.
Yeah, and there's no way to communicate.
No,
there's no way to reason with
There's no way and they don't recognise you as being even real.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I suppose another thing that really creeps me out all the time is the idea of unwilling experimentation.
Yeah, and that's a trope in alien abduction as well, isn't it?
Well, somebody told me that that apparently in Star Trek Discovery, the Starfleet are doing experimentations on aliens, and it's just like, either way, like knowing that something's been experimented on. There's scenes in a TV series I'm watching on Netflix at the moment called Expanse, and it's another sci-fi program, and it basically involves a bunch of people. There's a bit where they're all been experimented on, and just the idea of science being wrought for evil, that creeps me out no end. So that probably is actually that aligns with your fear, is the idea that I am scared of. It's such an unnerving thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's existentially horrifying because it encompasses within it not only the fear of predators and the fear of losing agency, but it's also the fear that your existence is essentially meaningless. It's like it's a horror imagining an illustration of that. So your ultimate scary creature or scary trope, I suppose, is ghosts, and also
it's a ghost doing
experimentation.
It's a ghost doing false experimentation.
Yeah, your ultimate horror creature is a ghost doing dentistry on you.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, my one is definitely alien abduction. So, I think just to close this, I would like to read you a little bit of a creepypasta.
Okay.
Which just while I pull this up, could you just explain what creepypasta is?
I'm not really sure. Like, it's a term that I hear used a lot, and we've always used. Isn't it basically like creepypasta is just like fake ghost and horror stories.
Well, I've always thought of creepypasta as just being like modern internet campfire stories.
Okay, there you go. It's modern internet campfire stories. So what you should have done is you should have said, Nick, whilst I'm getting this up, please explain to me how you got shat up on the way home from the train station.
Did that happen?
Yeah. So I was walking home, and I was walking along, and I saw in the hedge this enormous white shape.
Oh god!
And I saw double take. I was like, "Fuck!" And it looked like a cat had just been ripped apart, and its fur hung in the tree. And I was like, "Oh, jeez!" And it was literally just a second of pure hot white panic. I was like, "What the fuck has happened?"
Yeah.
And I realised that my next door but 5 neighbours had just hung spiderwebs in their tree to celebrate Goth Christmas. But for a couple of hot seconds, I was like, "Fuck! Something horrible's happened!" Blah blah blah. But no.
So Nick, you are now the only person in existence to actually be genuinely terrified by Halloween decorations.
Yes. Yes, I am, Chris. Yes, I am.
Okay, so this is an untitled creepypasta, which we will leave you with.
Okay.
So, man and girl go out to drive under moonlight. They stop on at a side of road. He turned to his girl and say, "Baby, I love you very much." "What is it, honey?" "Our car is broken down. I think the engine is broken. I'll walk and get some more fuel." "Okay, I'll stay here and look after our stereo. There have been news report of stereos being stolen." "Good idea. Keep the doors locked no matter what. I love you, sweaty." So the guy, don't make me corpse, seriously, because if I corpse, I'll never get it back. So the guy left to get fuel for the car. After 2 hours, the girl say, "Where is my baby? He was supposed to be back by now." Then the girl hear a scratching sound and voice say, "Let me in." The girl doesn't do it, and then after a while she goes to sleep. The next morning she wakes up and finds her boyfriend still not there. She gets out to check, and man door hand hook car door.
What? Pardon? Could I have that last line again, please?
She gets out to check, and man door hand hook car door.
Is that it?
It's like, that's it, yeah. It's like they were just in a rush to finish, and they were like, all these elements are there, just like put the words in.
Just man
Man door hand hook car door.
That's like a beat poem. Like, what is
I know.
Well,
Oh, God.
it turns out that horror wears many guises and many masks.
Horror
Its
wears
face
many faces.
Lies down many a dark alleyway, round the unsuspecting corner as you walk home at night, and will follow you down the street and
Until man door hand hook car door.
Man door hand hook car door.
Oh my god.
Isn't that like isn't that the shortest story written by man?
This is the shortest horror story. Horror story in 6 words. Man door hand hook car door.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
No resolution whatsoever. It's like a series finale for Twin Peaks. It was just like done.
So, with that in mind, thank you very much for listening to this Halloween special of Expert Commander. So I've been your host, Christopher R. Morgan.
I'm never quite sure what my role is in this, but my name is Nick Gonzo, and I love you very much.
Thank you, good night, and happy Halloween.
Ooh, don't be frightened by the spook.